In the heart of ancient Africa, where baobab trees stretched toward the heavens, there was a village named Ikikir. The village was nestled beside a majestic river called Omioro, the River of Secrets. Omioro flowed with elegance and power, feeding the land and the people with its generous spirit. Its waters were clear and cold, its current strong and wise, moving like a serpent through the land. Generations of villagers had depended on the river for fishing, farming, and drinking. But while the river gave life, it was also feared deeply, especially after sunset. The elders warned of an ancient presence that walked the riverbank beneath the full moon. A ghostly figure, they said, whose sorrow could be heard in the wind. Children were taught never to play near the river after dark, and when the moon was full, the entire village avoided the water. Yet one man named Oba, a skilled and respected fisherman, refused to heed these warnings. Oba was strong, confident, and proud of his deep connection with Omioro. He believed the ghost stories were old wives' tales meant to scare the young. "I have fished these waters for years," Oba would say, "and seen no spirit but my own reflection." His wife Amara was not so sure. She had heard the stories since childhood, and her grandmother once claimed to have seen the ghost. "It's not about fear," she often told him. "It's about respect." But Oba laughed off her concern. "Respect is what I show the river every day," he said, "and in return, it gives me fish and peace." That season, the fish had been unusually scarce. Oba believed the river was testing him, and he resolved to fish during the full moon. "The river must see my persistence," he told Amara. She begged him not to go. "This is the night the ghost is strongest," she whispered. Oba kissed her forehead and promised to return before dawn. As he walked to the river, a heavy fog clung to the ground. The moon was large and glowing like an eye watching from above. Oba reached the riverbank, his net slung over his shoulder and a lantern in hand. The water was eerily still, like glass stretched across the earth. He set his net and waited, watching the moonlight ripple over the current. Hours passed, but not a single fish came. Then, the wind shifted. It carried a melody soft, haunting, and ancient. Oba stiffened. The song was not of this world. The fog thickened, and a shape emerged from the river's edge. A tall figure in white, her hair long and wet, her eyes glowing faintly. Oba's heart pounded. His mouth went dry. The ghost floated above the ground, her feet never touching the earth. She sang in a voice that seemed to bend time itself. Oba turned to run, but froze when she spoke his name. "Oba," she whispered. "You came. Who are you?" he demanded, trying to steady his voice. "Don't you recognize me?" she asked, drawing closer. Oba squinted through the fog. Then a memory flashed: his little sister Naya, laughing as she chased a frog by the river. He gasped. "It can't be. You left me here," she said. "I called your name, but you ran." "I was a boy," he said, his voice breaking. "I was scared, and I was lost," she said. "Alone. The river took me and made me its daughter." Oba dropped to his knees. "What do you want from me?" he asked. "You once gave me a promise," she said. Oba remembered the bracelet he'd woven for her from reeds and cowries. "You promised never to forget me," she said. "I tried," Oba said. "But the years the river remembers," she interrupted. "And it held my sorrow until you returned." "Tell me what to do," Oba pleaded. "Let me set you free." She pointed to the deepest part of the river. "Bring back what you left behind." Oba ran back to the village before sunrise. He went straight to the hut of the village chief. The chief, old and wise, listened to his tale in silence. "I remember that day," the chief said softly. "You were a boy. We found only her doll. Was anything else recovered?" Oba asked urgently. The chief opened a small carved box. Inside was the bracelet, worn and faded but still whole. "We kept it," the chief said. "No one claimed it." Oba clutched the bracelet and returned to the river. The ghost was waiting, her song lingering in the air. "I brought it," he said, holding out the bracelet. She took it gently, her fingers as cold as the river's breath. "You remembered," she whispered. Her form shimmered, and for a moment she looked alive. The fog lifted, and the river sparkled as the sun rose. Then her form dissolved into light. The bracelet fell into the water and vanished beneath the surface. A wave of warmth flowed through Oba's body. He collapsed on the bank and slept deeply. When he awoke, the river was alive with birdsong. That day, Oba did not fish. He returned home and told Amara everything. She held him and wept with him. "You have faced what many could not," she said. News spread through the village. People gathered to hear Oba's story. Some believed, some doubted, but all noticed that the river had changed. The fish returned, crops grew stronger, the water ran clearer, and the nights were calmer. The elders said the river had been cleansed of its sorrow. Oba became a revered man in Ikikir. He stopped fishing during the full moon and offered prayers instead. He would bring fruits, kola nuts, and honey to the riverbank. Each time, he whispered his sister's name, Naya. "Rest now. You are remembered." Children gathered to hear his story by moonlight. "You must respect the river," he would say. "It remembers everything." His tale became legend part of Ikikir's soul. Years passed. Oba grew older, his hands rough but his heart gentler. He taught the young boys to fish, to honor the river. He taught the girls songs to sing to the water spirits. But most of all, he taught memory how not to forget. One day, a strange storm hit the village. The river rose, angry and loud. Trees fell, roofs blew off, and animals fled. Oba stood by the shrine he had built for Naya. "Please," he prayed, "do not take the village." The winds calmed, the river receded, and no lives were lost. The villagers believed Naya had protected them. They began leaving offerings at the shrine year-round. Not just for Naya, but for all lost souls. The riverbank became sacred. No one walked there with disrespect. Young lovers whispered promises. At its edge, mothers prayed for safe births. Farmers poured libations before planting. And Oba, now the village elder, kept his vigil. He sat at the bank during every full moon. One night, a boy named Tund crept out to meet him. Tund was curious and bold, much like Oba had once been. "Elder," he whispered, "tell me the ghost story again." Oba smiled, his eyes full of moonlight. "It is not a story," he said. "It is truth that breathes." Tund stayed beside him, listening. The river was quiet that night, but its presence was strong. Tund heard whispers in the water. "Do you hear that?" he asked. Oba nodded. That is how the river speaks. As years passed, Tund became Oba's apprentice. He learned to fish, farm, and lead. More importantly, he learned the history of Ikikir. He listened to the river's moods, its silences, its songs. When Oba's health declined, Tund took over his duties. But Oba still sat at the river, wrapped in white cloth. He looked frail, like he belonged more to the river than the land. One day, he called Tund to his side. "My time is near," he said. "You must remember." "I will," Tund promised. That night, Oba walked to the river alone. The moon was full, silver, and sacred. He stood where he had first seen Naya. "I am ready," he whispered. The wind stirred. The water glowed faintly. Some say they saw a woman in white standing beside him. Others heard laughter like a child's. By morning, Oba was gone. Only his staff remained, stuck firmly in the earth, and beside it a single cowrie bracelet. The village mourned, but they celebrated too. "He has gone to the river's heart," the elder said. They carved a large mask in his honor, white as moonlight. They danced beside the shrine for 7 days. And Tund became the new storyteller. He taught the children about Naya and Oba. He sang the river's songs, even when no one else could hear them. One day, a girl named Ive claimed to see the ghost by the water. "She smiled at me," Ive said. "She wasn't scary," Tund nodded. "She is no longer sad. She is home." As generations passed, the story became part of every household. Children acted it out during festivals. Artists painted the ghost in white robes beside her brother. The river shrine grew grander, decorated with shells and feathers. Each year, the village held the moonlight vigil. Everyone gathered by the river. They sang songs of remembrance. They lit lanterns and floated them downstream. The lanterns danced like stars across the surface. And the river, wise and eternal, carried them with care. Some nights, a fisherman would hear a voice calling from the water, not to frighten but to guide. Lost travelers claimed a glowing woman led them to safety. Crops never failed near the river's edge, and the fish always returned during the full moon. Many believed it was Naya's blessing, and Oba's love that anchored her spirit in peace. The river was no longer feared. It became a place of communion, of connection between the living and the spirits. Elders taught that rivers remember grief, but they also remember healing. They warned never to break a promise at the river's edge, for the water would carry the memory to the other side. One boy, mischievous and defiant, once mocked the ghost. He kicked offerings into the river. That night, his house flooded mysteriously. The elders said it was a warning. He later returned with his family to beg forgiveness. He never disrespected the river again. Over time, a library was built beside the shrine. It held scrolls of river chants and ghost songs. Pilgrims came from far villages to read and pray. A priestess was appointed to care for the site. She wore white like tea,